Imagine opening your eyes in Tudor London. The year is somewhere in the mid-1500s, and before you even move, the city makes itself known. The first breath you take is heavy with smoke, rot, and something worse, the sour tang of human waste drifting up from the streets. You gag before you've even taken a step. This is not the London of stage plays and palaces. This is the London of 200,000 people packed into crooked streets, where chamber pots are dumped from windows, and the Thames itself is a wide brown sewer. The stench never leaves you. People born here have learned to live with it, but for you one breath feels like poison. Before we wander further, let me pause for a gentle reminder. If you enjoy strange, sleepy journeys like this one, do press like and subscribe. It helps me keep telling these stories. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight? Bed, the bus may be somewhere much quieter than Tudor London. Now back to our miserable morning. The first thing you notice is the crowd. The lanes are narrow, sometimes so tight the buildings above almost touch. Timber-framed houses lean in over your head, their upper floors jutting out like crooked teeth. Beneath them people jostle and shout, hawkers calling out fish, bread or firewood, apprentices running errands, children shrieking as they dodge carts. The streets themselves are treacherous. They slope toward a central gutter called the kennel, where everything foul runs together. Pig's blood, fish guts, ashes, horse dung, and the contents of chamber pots. Rats scurry openly, fat and quick. If you slip, you'll never get the smell out of your clothes. The noise is overwhelming. Bells ring, blacksmiths hammer, beggars cry for alms, dogs bark, pigs squeal, and somewhere someone is always singing, shouting or fighting. Even at night the city doesn't quiet. Taverns roar until dawn, and watchmen cry the hour with lanterns in hand. To you there is no peace, no silence to recover in. Perhaps you think to escape to the Thames. Surely the wide water must offer some relief. But when you reach the bank you find it worse. Butchers toss entrails into the tide, privies and drains empty straight into the river, dead animals float past. Yet Londoners still wash in it, draw water from it, and eat the fish caught in it. The sight alone is enough to turn your stomach. Food, too, is no comfort. Market stalls groan with meat buzzing with flies, bread stretched with chalk or ground bone, fish already turning sour. You glance at the ale jugs and think perhaps that's safer, and it is, but only just. Weak, sour, barely drinkable, but better than water. Inside an inn, things are no better. The air is thick with smoke, the straw underfoot full of fleas, and the benches sticky with spilled drink. The food tastes of rancid fat, and the ale burns your throat. You imagine sleep, but the noise, the stench, and the itching straw won't allow it. And then there are the people. They brush against you constantly, a drunkard leaning too close, a child tugging at your sleeve, a beggar with sores on his hands. You try to pull away, but the streets are too crowded. Everyone is pressed together, their sweat, dirt and breath becoming part of the air you must breathe. The city does have laws about cleanliness. Technically, you can be fined for throwing waste into the street, but in practice, no one cares. Buckets are emptied with a quick shout of "Gardyloo," and down it comes. You learn to walk close to the walls, always wary of the windows above. And remember, all this is only the morning. Disease, fire and violence are yet to come. But already your senses are overloaded. Your stomach turns at every smell, your lungs ache with smoke, your nerves strain at the noise. For Londoners, this is life. Familiar, bearable, even invisible. For you, one day already feels too long. So take another breath, if you dare. Look down at the gutter, glance up at the leaning houses, and realize, surviving even the first hours of Tudor London might be more than you can manage. You've survived your first breath in Tudor London. That's impressive. But sooner or later your stomach reminds you that you need to eat. And here is where your day takes another turn for the worse. Because in this city food is not your friend. In fact, it is just as likely to kill you as keep you alive. The markets look tempting at first. Tables groan with bread, meat, fish, fruit and ale. Hawkers shout about fresh loaves, the best beef, the richest pies. The smells are strong, filling the air with roasted fat and yeasty bread. You might even feel a flicker of relief. But look closer. Bread is the first danger. White bread exists, but it is the luxury of the wealthy, made from fine flour. What most people eat is brown bread, coarse, heavy, and often stretched with chalk, powdered bone, or even ground up beans to save on flour. Millers and bakers alike were notorious for cheating. Sometimes the flour itself was old and full of weevils. Bakers could be publicly punished for lightweight loaves, but that didn't stop them from cutting corners. Imagine biting into your first Tudor loaf and feeling grit grind between your teeth. If bread doesn't turn your stomach, meat will. Butchers line the streets with sides of beef, slabs of pork and whole chickens. Flies gather in thick black clouds. The meat is rarely fresh. Without refrigeration, slaughtered animals hang for days, their fat turning green, their smell growing sour. Salted meat is safer, but often too salty to stomach. Worse, much of this meat has been stretched with tricks, watered down, mixed with scraps, or minced with whatever could be found. Pies were famous for hiding things you didn't want to think about. Fish is no safer. Although London is near the Thames and not far from the sea, transport is slow and fish rot quickly. You may see eels coiling in barrels, carp glistening on boards, or herring piled high, but by the time they reach you they smell strongly. Salted and pickled fish are common, but even those can go bad. Yet in a city where meat is expensive, fish is eaten daily, especially on religious fast days. And then there are the vegetables. If you expect fresh green salads, you are in the wrong century. Vegetables were considered food for the poor, or even animal feed. Onions, leeks and cabbages were common, but they often carried soil, insects and rot. Fruits existed, apples, pears, cherries, but they spoiled fast and were expensive out of season. People believed too much fruit or raw produce could upset your humors, so it was not eaten in abundance. Perhaps you think, fine, then I will just drink water. But that is where Tudor London laughs at you again. The water is filthy. Drawn from the Thames, or from public conduits often polluted with waste, it spreads sickness faster than anything else. Dysentery, known as the bloody flux, is constant. It leaves its victims racked with pain, dehydrated, and often dead. No one in their right mind drinks plain water if they can avoid it. And so, you drink ale. Weak, small ale brewed in nearly every household, tavern and inn. It is safer than water because the brewing process kills some germs. But the taste is sour, flat, and unappealing. If you are poor, you drink it thin and weak, barely more than cloudy water. If you are wealthy, you can afford stronger ale or even imported wine, but those are luxuries beyond the reach of most. The average Londoner downs pints of small ale every day, at breakfast, at lunch, and again at night. It is less about pleasure and more about survival. For you, used to clean water and carefully prepared meals, this is a shock. Your stomach twists at the sour ale. Your teeth grind against gritty bread. The meat tastes faintly rotten. Even if it doesn't kill you outright, it weakens you, filling your body with things it was never meant to endure. And sometimes the food really does kill. Grain stores occasionally harbor mold that produces ergot, a fungus that brings convulsions, hallucinations, and gangrene. Spoiled fish carries parasites. Contaminated meat spreads fevers. In a city where food regulation is light and preservation is primitive, every meal is a gamble. Eating also exposes you to another daily Tudor hazard, class. What you eat says everything about who you are. The wealthy feast on venison, beef, and fine white bread. The poor survive on coarse loaves, cabbage stews, and whatever scraps they can scavenge. Street food exists, pies, sausages, oysters, but it is cheap, greasy, and risky. A pie sold on a London street might contain meat so questionable that you would rather not ask what animal it came from. The smells of cooking saturate the streets, meat roasting on spits, fish frying in oil, onions boiling in pots. It seems festive at first, but remember, these same smells are layered over the reek of sewers, the smoke of thousands of hearths, and the sweat of the crowd. Eating is never separate from the city's filth. Every bite feels tainted by the air itself. And don't expect utensils to save you. Knives are shared, spoons are wooden, and forks are rare. Most people eat with their hands. At a tavern, you might tear bread with fingers already coated in dirt from the street. Hand washing is not a habit many people keep. The spread of disease is invisible but constant. Food is supposed to comfort, to sustain. But in Tudor London, it is another trial. Another reminder that survival here is fragile. Even the wealthy, with their tables laden with roasted meats and sugared fruits, cannot escape the risks. Their food is richer but still unsafe. Spices might disguise a taste of rot, but they cannot cure it. So, when your stomach rumbles in Tudor London, beware. Bread will grind your teeth, meat will turn your stomach, fish will poison you, water will sicken you, and ale will never quite quench your thirst. Eating here is not about choice. It is about enduring what is set before you and hoping it does not kill you. You thought the city's air might be your undoing, but a single meal is just as dangerous. And remember, your day is still only beginning. By now, your stomach has endured its first Tudor meal: gritty bread, sour ale, perhaps a suspicious pie, and you might think your day in London can't get any worse. But then comes thirst. And here, in this bustling city of riverside markets and crowded taverns, thirst may be the most dangerous enemy of all. You look to the Thames, wide and gleaming under a pale sky. Surely this river is the heart of the city, the reason it even exists. Surely here at least there is water to drink. But the moment you step closer, the illusion vanishes. The Thames is not a river, it is an open sewer. Butchers dump blood and entrails straight into it. Tanners soak hides in its shallows, releasing foul chemicals. Privies and drains empty directly into the tide. Dead dogs float past, bloated and rotting. Children play at its edge, dipping buckets to fetch what they will later boil for stews. Londoners themselves shake their heads and mutter about the stench, but they still use it, because there is little other choice. If the river does not tempt you, perhaps the city conduits might. In several places across London stand stone cisterns fed by wooden pipes, carrying spring water from the outskirts. At first, these seem like a gift, fresh water brought into the city, but the conduits are open to the public and people crowd around them daily. Buckets splash, children play, animals lap from the puddles below, servants and apprentices queue to fill their masters' barrels, and nearby, the refuse of the city continues to seep into the ground. What emerges from the spout is hardly the fresh mountain spring you imagine. It is water muddied, tainted, often warm from the sun. And so Londoners adapt. They do not trust plain water, and with good reason. The diseases it carries are relentless. Dysentery, called the bloody flux, leaves its victims racked with fever and pain. Typhoid lingers in tainted wells. Even plague can creep in through contaminated water supplies, spread by rats that drink alongside humans. A single careless sip could lay you low in days. So what do they drink instead? Ale, weak, cloudy, often sour, ale brewed in households, taverns and monasteries. Brewing kills some of the germs, making it safer than water, though hardly pleasant. This small ale contains little alcohol, barely enough to dull the edge of a bad day, but enough to make it safer than the river. Children drink it, servants drink it. Even at breakfast, Londoners lift a jug of ale rather than risk a cup of water. The taste may disappoint you. Imagine lukewarm, yeasty liquid, thin as broth, and with a tang that lingers on your tongue. It quenches thirst only reluctantly, but it is survival in liquid form. Wealthier Londoners can afford better, stronger ales, wines imported from France or Spain, even sweetened mead, but for the majority, small ale is daily bread in liquid form, and the more you drink, the more you realize you are never truly refreshed. The taste reminds you of survival, not comfort. Occasionally, other drinks appear. Milk is common in the countryside but rare in the city, since it spoils quickly. Cider is found in certain regions, but less so in London. Herbal infusions exist, sage tea for instance, but are considered more medicine than refreshment. The idea of clean, refreshing water simply does not belong to this world. The dangers of water extend beyond disease. Wells can collapse or run dry. Conduits are sometimes monopolized by nearby residents, fights breaking out over buckets. Water carriers charge fees to deliver barrels across the city, making fresh water a luxury for those who can afford it. For the poor, the river remains the only source, and so they drink, cook, and wash in filth, hoping their bodies will withstand what their minds know is poison. You might wonder, how did people survive this at all? The truth is, many did not. Children died in staggering numbers from fluxes and fevers. Adults suffered recurring bouts of stomach sickness, accepted as part of life. The average Londoner expected to live with discomfort, and if lucky to live long enough for their body to adapt. But you, a visitor, unaccustomed, fragile in comparison, would not last long. The first mug of water might be your last. There is a grim irony in all this. The Thames, foul though it was, also gave life. It carried goods, powered mills, provided fish, and served as the artery of the city. But in giving life, it also spread death. The very river that allowed London to grow into a capital could just as easily kill the people who relied on it. So here you are, thirsty, standing on the riverbank, staring at the oily ripples. You want to drink, your lips are dry, your throat aches, but you know what waits for you in that water. You hesitate, torn between thirst and survival, and then, like every Tudor Londoner, you reach for the sour ale instead. And as the flat, yeasty taste hits your tongue, you realize, in this city, even something as simple as a drink of water is a gamble with death. By now you've survived the stench, endured a grim meal, and chosen sour ale over poisoned water. But in Tudor London, survival isn't just about food or drink. It is also about staying alive among the crowds, because the streets are not only dirty, they are dangerous. The first danger is theft. The streets teem with apprentices, beggars and laborers, but hidden among them are pickpockets. They work in pairs or groups, one jostling you in the press of bodies, another slipping your purse away. For you, a stranger, the odds of being robbed are high. Before you even realize it, your coins are gone and the crowd swallows the thief. London has watchmen, of course, but they patrol sporadically, carrying little more than staves and lanterns. Their main weapon is shouting for help, but in a city this crowded, their cries vanish into the noise. Then there are the cut purses. These thieves carry small, sharp blades to slice cords and pouches. You feel only the lightest tug, and your money is gone. If you carry anything worth stealing, London will take it from you. And if theft does not claim you, violence might. Taverns are notorious for brawls. Arguments over ale or dice spill into the streets, fists flying, knives flashing. Apprentices fight in gangs, proud of their masters' trades, turning simple rivalries into pitched battles. Even walking at night is perilous. Torches are few, alleys are dark, and more than one traveller has been dragged into shadows and never seen again. Punishment in Tudor London is as brutal as the crimes themselves. Imagine walking into a square and seeing a man in the stocks, his ankles locked in place, children pelting him with rotten food, or a woman at the pillory, her head and hands trapped while the crowd jeers. These are the lucky ones. Thieves may be whipped until their backs run with blood. Others are branded with hot irons, letters seared into their flesh to mark their crimes forever. And then there are the executions. London is a theatre of death. At Tyburn, criminals are hanged in front of enormous crowds. The condemned are dragged there on sleds, jeered and pelted with refuse along the way. The execution itself is slow and cruel, the victim dangling, kicking, choking while the crowd cheers. Heads of traitors, once severed, are displayed on spikes at London Bridge, crows pecking at their eyes. You may try to avert your gaze, but it is impossible. Death is entertainment here, as common as music or theatre. For lesser crimes, there is prison. But do not imagine tidy cells. The Fleet and Newgate are filthy, crowded and brutal. Prisoners must pay their keepers for food and bedding. Those without money starve. Gal fever, what we now call typhus, spreads quickly in the dark, airless halls. To be thrown in prison for even a short time is often a death sentence. The crowds themselves are a punishment of sorts. London is bursting with people, migrants from the countryside, beggars, vagabonds, and the desperate all pour into the city. Children as young as 6 beg in the streets. Women sell oranges, flowers, or themselves. Blind men rattle cups. Veterans display scars. And priests cry sermons to anyone who will listen. The press of humanity is relentless, and there is no space that feels safe. And among them there are the stews, the licensed brothels of Southwark, just across the river. Officially tolerated, they draw men from every class, and with them disease spreads quickly. To walk there is to risk more than your purse. Even public entertainments reflect this culture of danger. Bear-baiting pits roar with cheers as chained animals are set upon by dogs. The crowd revels in blood. Executions are holidays, punishments are festivals, and cruelty is woven into daily life. You, raised with the idea of law and order as protection, would find little comfort here. In Tudor London, law is as harsh as the crimes it tries to control. And yet the people endure. They laugh, they drink, they cheer at the scaffold. For them this is the rhythm of life, a balance of fear and spectacle. But for you, dropped into the middle of it, the shock is overwhelming. The danger is not only from the plague or poisoned food, but from the very people brushing past you on the street. So imagine yourself in that crowd. One hand on your purse, another shielding your face from rotten fruit hurled at the pillory. The noise of jeers ringing in your ears. You realize survival here is not about strength or cleverness. It is about endurance in the face of cruelty, and luck in the face of violence. And luck, in Tudor London, is in short supply. You've made it farther than most visitors would. You've breathed the foul air, eaten the gritty bread, drunk the sour ale, and even managed to dodge thieves and punishments in the streets. But in Tudor London, the final and greatest enemy is not the noise or the stench or even the crowd. It is death, and it is everywhere. Illness shadows every step. The plague is never far, flaring up with terrifying speed. Fleas ride on rats, slipping through London's filthy lanes, into its crowded homes, and into the very straw where families sleep. You wake one morning with a lump in your armpit, a boil swelling under your skin, and before long the fever takes you. Death can come within days. The sight of carts piled with the dead is not medieval myth. It is daily reality. Whole households vanish in a week. Neighbors hang bunches of herbs in their windows, hoping the smell will drive away the miasma. Priests mutter hurried prayers over shrouded bodies before the earth swallows them in mass pits. And then there is the sweating sickness, a uniquely Tudor terror. You feel fine one moment, flushed perhaps from the crowd or the sun, but within hours, sweat pours from your body, weakness crushes you, and your heart races toward collapse. It kills fast, often within a single day. No one knows its cause, and doctors are powerless. Even the rich cannot escape it. Lords and ladies die as quickly as beggars. In London, survival is never guaranteed, not even for the highest born. Other sicknesses stalk you too. The bloody flux, dysentery, twists your stomach and leaves you doubled over in agony. Smallpox scars faces, measles claims children, and syphilis, spreading quickly through the brothels, leaves its victims disfigured and raving. Gale fever drifts out of prisons, carried by lice, and sweeps through the city in waves. You begin to see death, not as an event, but as a constant companion. The houses themselves are breeding grounds. Families of 10 or more crowd into single rooms, the air thick with smoke and sweat. Straw mattresses crawl with fleas. Bedclothes are rarely washed. A single cough can set off a chain that takes an entire household. For you, used to the idea of soap, windows, and space, the experience is suffocating. Every breath feels like a risk, every touch a gamble. The streets, too, remind you that mortality is always near. You pass the churchyard and see freshly dug graves, the earth uneven, shovels waiting for the next body. Bells toll endlessly, marking not hours but deaths. Children play among the tombs because there is nowhere else for them to go. Death is so common here that it no longer shocks the living, it simply weaves into their days. And yet, London continues. Taverns still fill with laughter, markets still ring with hawkers, plays still draw crowds. Life and death walk hand in hand, and people learn to live in the shadow of the grave. But for you, one day here is too much. You cannot adapt, cannot shrug off the fear, cannot grow numb to the ever-present stench of sickness. Imagine the traveller you have been following since morning. He began the day gagging on the air, stumbled over filth, ate reluctantly, drank sour ale, and shielded his purse from cut purses. Now as evening falls, he leans against a wall in a narrow lane. His face is pale, his body weary. Around him the city roars on, laughter, music, sermons, fights. But inside him, a fever already burns. He coughs once, twice, and the crowd surges past indifferent. Tomorrow, perhaps, he will lie in a pit with the others. This is why you would not survive Tudor London. Not because you are weak, but because the city itself is stronger than any one person. It is a living, heaving beast, feeding on the bodies of those who stumble. Londoners endured it because they had no choice, because their lives were forged in its filth and its fury. But you, a visitor from centuries later, cannot bear even one day. And so the day ends as it began, with foul air, a roaring crowd, and the constant shadow of death. You close your eyes and realize that in Tudor London, survival is not measured in years or months, but in hours. Sleep now, if you can, and be grateful that when you wake, it will not be in the streets of 16th century London.